No one is coming. It's up to you. You hear that in the military a lot. But it also has to do with our financial state here in America. It's not going to change based off how you vote in Washington. It's not going to change based off you protesting and not working. All you can do is realize what the problems are and hedge accordingly. Part of the reason for this channel is letting people know that the system is rigged. And the more we ask Washington for help, the worse it's going to get. Unfortunately, not a lot of people think that way, but the bigger government gets, the worse the problems are going to become. And it's the spending of government that makes this economy become rigged. And a lot of people are getting disenfranchised, especially younger generations, this quiet quitting or just not working at all. And I got some harsh truths. You can do that, but no one's coming to save you, right? The government's not going to come save you. You're not going to vote for a living wage, and all of a sudden everything's rainbows and gumdrops falling from the sky. It's just not going to happen. What you can do is analyze what the problems are, the massive amount of debt we have, and work in a way that become inexpendable. Be a person who adds value, meaning you make more than the company spends on your salary. And I saw an article here from Zero Hedge that I thought was kind of interesting. It talks about explaining the value of labor. And there's a certain movement that hates work today. And I think that the reason they hate work is because there's a multifaceted, but they work harder and they have less to show for it. They're paying more in taxes when they work harder, and then you have inflation on top of that, and it just leaves people disenfranchised because, number one, they don't understand what the problem is. The problem is government spending. The problem is government control. And so these people see the problem, point towards the greedy corporation. I'm not saying corporations aren't greedy, but the reason we have inflation, the reason we have a lot of monopolies, the reason we have lack of competition and more expensive goods is the government. It is not the free market. But they blame the free market for it, obviously. But a couple things I wanted to work through on this article is if you're thinking about what line of work you want to go in, there's a lot of people that say government should mandate that there should be a living wage and there's no such thing as unskilled labor. And no matter what government you're in, that's just not a reality. If you want to sell some, let's say you're an entrepreneur and you want to sell something, you want to knit gloves for kittens or whatever you want to do, right? And they're not selling. Should you mandate that the government come in and say, hey, you have to buy this thing? So the same thing goes if you're an employee, right? If they can afford to pay you a certain amount and the government comes in and mandates that they pay you more, that's essentially the same thing. It's mandating that people get paid more and therefore they have to raise their prices. It's the same ballpark as mandating somebody buy something they don't want to buy, right? So on its face, that is stupid. Raising the minimum wage, everyone should have a living wage. There is such a thing as valuable labor. And here's the harsh truth. Valuable labor and unvaluable labor. It's really not how hard you work. People who are digging ditches and doing construction work, they work way harder than me. They work way harder than a lot of people, right? They're doing manual labor 8-10 hours a day. That's very difficult. But how easy are they to replace? That's one of the realities of the market. No one's coming. Even though you want it to change, even though you want them to make $200,000 a year, it's just not going to happen. So you have to understand the reality of the world you live in and hedge accordingly. So if you're looking for a job, you should think about how easy is it to replace you? How long does it take to train for your job? If you're an employer, right, and you're hiring somebody, you want to know that they're going to make you more money than they cost you. Otherwise, why would they hire you? So if it takes a lot of energy and effort to get your skill set, then you become harder to replace. Another question you should ask, how much intelligence is required for your job? Can we replace you with anybody that can fog a mirror? If that's so, you're easier to replace. That's a market force. I know you don't want it to be that way. A lot of people are like, well, it shouldn't be that way. It is. A lot of people think only from the employee perspective, but think about from an employer perspective. It's not a charity. They're there to make money. Another question, how big of a part does your labor play in the larger process itself? Meaning, are you just on an assembly line and I could just swap you out for another person? You know, I'm in the military, and something to keep in mind in the military, a lot of your skills that you learn in the military, depending on your job, don't directly apply to the free market. And I could complain, I can bitch, moan, and complain and say, hey, you know what? I'm in the military, I serve my country. I should get a job that pays $200,000, $100,000, whatever, after I get out of the military. But that's not the reality. You know, if you're in the infantry in the Army, you learn a lot of soft skills, you learn a lot of leadership skills, but how well you shoot the enemy or how well you run a tank or whatever your job is doesn't directly apply to working at a Fortune 500. That makes sense. So you've got to understand where your skill sets are and market yourself accordingly. That's just reality. You can bitch, moan, and complain about it, but it's not going to change it. No one's coming. It's up to you. Another question, how many people need to strike to make your job valuable? Again, if you go to a company, this is what one of my big problems with college is why I dropped out and joined the military. I didn't think I was marketable. I didn't think I was learning anything. Of course, you learn some stuff, but is it like a lot of people thought, you know, college is your ticket to success. I'm like, well, I'm spending all this money to learn about something I can read from a book. I want to learn like hard skills where I can go to a company and say, hey, I know how to do this. And it's not some soft HR kind of job where it's like, oh, well, we could fill this with anybody. But it's an actual hard skill where you could take it wherever you go because you can say, I can make you more money than I cost you. That's one way I think about it. So, my point to especially young people, a lot of people are feeling disenfranchised within the workforce today, and that's very understandable because we have a rigged system. Everything's becoming more expensive. Businesses are having a hard time calculating inflation costs and labor costs, et cetera, et cetera. But all you can do is affect your own situation. The more inexpendable you become, the more skilled you become, the more you can take that skill anywhere you want. That's the other great thing, right? If you work in HR or you have these soft skills, like I was talking about in the military, that's not really something you could put on paper. You have certifications, you know how to do something. Weld, plumbing, electricity, or cybersecurity, whatever it is. You have certifications, you understand a concept, and you can put it on paper and make people money doing that. I think that's much more valuable in today's economy, these hard skill jobs. And you can take it anywhere you go. So if you get mistreated at one job, you're harder to replace. And people are looking for those skills everywhere. It's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that the younger generation is feeling disenfranchised, this lack of work ethic today, is because of inflation? Or is it because this new generation was raised different? Or do you think, like me, that the economy has actually changed? And the value of work, especially unskilled work, is going down. The value of skilled labor is going up. And if you want to get ahead in this rigged economy, you've got to be a skilled worker, in my humble opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. See y'all in the next one. Peace.